So this lecture is going to be about human self-domestication. Can we use what we've learned about other animals, and dogs especially, through the fox experiment, and also now what we know about bonobos as a result, to think about our species' evolution? Can we solve the problem of explaining ourselves? So for this, the chapter in the Genius of Dogs that'll be most relevant will be chapter 5, and there are no laboratory exercises here from Cognition. So think about our species, and it's quick to come to the conclusion that we are amazing at cooperating. We sacrifice for each other. We work together in remarkable ways. And we've talked about theory of mind and how important thinking about the thoughts of others is, reading emotions, perceptions, intentions, beliefs in others, and how that allows for culture, language, institutions, and all sorts of other things. And here you have people in a very dangerous situation working together. And what I'd like to suggest to you is that all of the things that we think about, language, communication in other ways, culture, all of these other things that we think of as being human, theory of mind itself, would not be possible if it wasn't for a level of tolerance, a level of pro-social behavior towards one another that is very, very special. So if you don't believe me, think about a busy street. I'm sure you've been caught in traffic before, and humans, and especially in urban populations, are incredibly tolerant of one another. As frustrated as you have been in traffic before, very, very infrequently do people actually become aggressive. In fact, when they do, it's a big news story that somebody has shown road rage and become super aggressive. So humans are capable of living at incredible density. If you look at the density that other primates live under, humans are capable of an extraordinary level of high density living that you don't see in any other species. To do that, you have to have an incredible increase in tolerance and potentially interest in one another. And of course, that sounds a lot like what we've been talking about when we've talked about the fox experiment, we talked about wolves versus dogs, and we talked about bonobos versus chimpanzees. Could it be that one of the big things that made a big difference in our species evolution is that we had to become more tolerant and more capable of being interested in one another to live the way that we do today? Now that seems funny because of course humans can seem the most aggressive species on the planet. But at the same time, we're also the most peaceful. There's this paradox in our species. So I think that the work with dogs can help us answer that paradox and help us think about it in an interesting way. So let me tell you a little bit about the brains of domesticated animals, or more precisely, the crania. And what you see universally, as I suggested in the last lecture, is that animals that become domesticated, when compared to their wild type or their ancestor, have a major reduction in their cranial capacity. This is just, there's a lot of names here and a lot of different species, but all it's showing you is the degree to which different domesticated animals have seen a reduction in their cranial capacity as a result of domestication. And essentially, one of the big signatures of domestication, and we even saw it in bonobos, is a reduction in cranial capacity. Well, guess what? The largest brain that has ever been observed in humans is not in the current modern human that you and I represent. Really, it was 20 to 30,000 years ago that humans were at the peak of their brain size, where we had the biggest brains. And of course, Neanderthals had much larger brains than our species ever had. And in addition, remember and recall I told you that in the fox experiment, there was a feminization of the skeleton, but to add detail to that, there was also a feminization of the skull itself. If you look at the skull represented on the left and the skull on the right, you'll see that the skull on the right actually is very different than the skull on the left, and that's the result of the domestication process, where you have facial feminization as a result.